Welcome to the Millionaire Mindcast, where we broadcast weekly interviews with millionaire minds from across the globe to empower you on your journey of unlocking a rich and fulfilling life. It's time to unleash your millionaire within. Now, here's your host, Matty A.
What's going on, guys? Welcome into today's show. In this episode of Millionaire Mindcast, we've got an amazing guest, Trevor Bacon. We're going to be discussing how they are transforming real estate investing through the blockchain. This is something that ultimately is going to become more and more common, but these are individuals that are really leading the charge in this space and pioneering investing through the blockchain. The blockchain is really going to change a lot of the world as we know it. But specifically, we dive into today about his entrepreneurial journey and how it unfolded, this idea of decentralized finance, the revolution of technology, diversifying money in real estate, and the milestone of the revolutionary aspect of what they're doing on the blockchain with real estate investing. Trevor is an entrepreneur. He's a founder and CEO of a company called Parcel, a digital real estate company that allows investors to gain exposure to the real estate market with less initial capital, more flexibility and liquidity. And it was really cool. We got to talking about, prior to jumping into this startup with his co-founders, he was a hedge fund portfolio manager in several hedge funds in New York. So we got some insights around the Wall Street stigma and that whole world that many people just don't understand. So kind of getting a look behind the curtain there was really interesting, asking him some great questions. Trevor always thinks of, really creative ideas in the world of finance and how technology can really transform your investing opportunities. And that's really some cool stuff that they're doing with Parcel that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. We talked about, ultimately how they're building and scaling their business, his reasons for why Wall Street has such a bad rap. We talked about some of the ideas and strategies that him and his co-founders are doing beyond the parcelization of digital real estate. Overall, just talking about this entrepreneurial journey, how he's building wealth through his business and beyond. I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's episode. If you are not subscribed to the show yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to check out the show notes at millionairemindcast.com for this episode, where you will find a show recap as well as the links and resources shared in this interview. And last but not least, all I ask is that if you guys enjoy the interview, be sure to share it with a friend, a family member. Most importantly, if you can take 60 seconds and leave a review on iTunes or whatever platform you enjoy listening to this content on, that would mean the world. And without any further ado, thanks for tuning in to today's show. But before we do, let's hear from our sponsors right after this quick message. Welcome to the show, Trevor Bacon. How we doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
We're on two different ends of the country right now. You're in New York. I'm in Cali. Two of the, spaces of innovation and entrepreneurship and business. And I know a lot of people are going to benefit hearing about how your entrepreneurial and business journey has unfolded, and really specifically diving in today on, blockchain-based solutions to real estate investment. Talking a little bit about Web3 and this whole thing that many people still have, trouble wrapping their heads around, which is blockchain. So I'm excited to dig in with an expert here today. But for those that don't know who you are and what Parcel is, tell us a little bit more.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. Really appreciate you having me on. And I'm excited to be here. So I'm Trevor Bacon, the CEO of Parcel. We started Parcel with myself, Jason Lewis, who's a chief data officer, and Kellen Grenier, who's our COO. We started it in May of 2021. So we've been around for about a year and a half, and we've just launched into market last week to a closed community. Prior to founding Parcel, I was a hedge fund portfolio manager at several hedge funds in New York, always focused on technology. Some startup hedge funds, and then a couple larger ones. And before that, I was at a few major banks. Again, always focused on growth tech, internet software, payments. And that's where I got introduced to the blockchain crypto sphere about 5 years ago. and viewed it as a revolutionary technology. That's kind of how I started my journey into the space.
I love it, man. Well, I want to definitely lean in a little bit on, why you believe in blockchain and, the revolutionary aspects of it, because I do as well. And many people still seem to look at it like it's hieroglyphics on a wall in a dark cave without a flashlight, right? Like, what the hell is this thing? So I know we're going to spend some time digging into that today, but what led you on this path of getting into finance, getting into, the space that you did post, I'm guessing college, yeah?
Yeah. So just generally in finance, so I'd always been interested in business and technology as well. The reason why I like technology is that it always changes, so it replaces itself. By definition, technology eats old technology, and you're always forced to grow and get better. Or else you kind of become obsolete. And so we continue to see that railways and it's basically like railways replaced cattle or not cattle, horses and buggies, and then airplanes replace railways, etc. So that's technology. It's just not information technology, but it's the same thing. So you're always growing, you're always morphing, you're always expanding, which is something that I kind of try to abide by in my general life, but also it keeps your career growing and evolving as well, because you're forced to question your beliefs, question what you're learning about, you're evolving and growing too. So blockchain is kind of like that next frontier of that evolution. You obviously had PCs and personal computing into the internet, and now we're going into distributed payment systems in a decentralized fashion. So that's what I believe is really the next leg of computing and technology.
So when you got into this world of finance, were you more in the kind of employee mindset of, hey, I'm just going to go and climb through these different, you're obviously in New York, so it's, it's a jungle of opportunity. Some die, some survive, most die, some survive, and few thrive. And you've kind of found a way to navigate that landscape. So what does that look like for you? And how's kind of the evolution of going from employee mindset and working within these funds and these groups transitioned into, being a CEO of a really badass company that's doing some pretty revolutionary stuff?
That's a really great question. So to get into like a hedge fund, typically you need some years of just getting the basic skills, which include learning how to use Excel and modeling financials, which is a great skill to have. I actually started in equity research. So that means, every bank has an equity research department, more or less, where you have opinions on companies, you model their financials, et cetera. And that was a great ground for me to learn, because it included technical, like financial analysis, writing, communicating. To write means you really understand something. So that helped me get a good foundation, and that led into hedge fund and investing. What I always loved about markets, generally speaking, is it's more entrepreneurial than you think, because no one can actually tell you if you're right or wrong except the market, right? The market tells you if you're right or wrong. So I would always view it as, don't really care what you think. The market's going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. And therefore, you're not kind of working for a boss, right? You work for the market. And then the same thing in where I'm now, I don't work for, I'm the CEO, but I work for my employees and I work for the customers. So they tell me if I'm right or wrong. And that's the mindset that I want everyone at Parcel to have, which is basically like, it doesn't matter where the idea comes from. Think as your customer, or think as if the market is your boss, because therefore you're not trying to make decisions to please someone whose idea their opinion may be wrong, right? So now you're lowering your chances of actually getting that idea or the creative idea into the world, because you're trying to please someone else. So that's what I always loved about the market, is that it doesn't matter who, there's opinions, and that's what makes a market, and the market decides in the end.
What were some of the greatest lessons you learned while working within some of those large organizations and funds and groups that you've carried over into your own business?
Yeah. So Wall Street does get a bad rap, but it requires toughness. So one of the things that we have is, one of our core tenets here is grit, along with many other core values. But I think There's a certain level of toughness that you have to have, especially in the hedge fund world, because every day your results are being displayed like live, like by the second. So there's no hiding. You have to put your opinions out there. You have to have your rationale. You have to have your conviction, and then you have to know when you're wrong and be able to change your mind. So these are some of the things that we try to have here, which is toughness, mental toughness, grit, and then also open-mindedness. So investing is a game where you have to remain open-minded. Information changes all the time. You have to have the humility to say, I was wrong, and maybe you go from short to long or long to short with that new information. And that's the type of agility that we need in the startup world. I would say this is a much more dynamic overall, right? You're dealing with people, a lot of people. You're dealing with a technology that is very new and requires new. It doesn't require, but has new inputs to help formulate our decisions every day. So we're always measuring risk reward kind of on this arc of time, which is much more dynamic than what I would say is kind of like a quarterly cadence in stocks.
We always joke around about it because I'm in, real estate investment and development, and, with hotels and, some of the commercial assets that that I own and operate. It is funny, right? Because we talk about how in this world of, I drive a lot of decisions off of data as well, trying, remove as much emotion as possible, fundamental data-driven decisions, tied to whatever goal we're solving for. And we always joke around of like, thank God real estate isn't as transparent and real time of a ticker like the stock market is, right? I mean, can you imagine how many people would be making rash emotional decisions about their house every day if there was a live ticker up about real estate? Why do you think it is that Wall Street has such a bad rap? I personally think that there is a level of one, ignorance, and then two, envy that comes in with a lot of outsiders on Main Street, right? And hence why we do a lot of these conversations on the Millionaire Mindcast is to bridge the gap with financial literacy and get people, to sharpen their pencils, get more tools on their financial tool belt to navigate, achieving and unlocking wealth and financial independence and stability. Look, smart money is smart money for a reason, right? So what is it, in your opinion, that is a reason for why Wall Street has the rap that it does?
That's a good question. That's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question, but I can take a stab. So I've been on Wall Street for 10 years. I would say in many aspects, Wall Street is almost undefeated. They find ways to make money in all situations almost, and then kind of either get bailed out or like wait and they have the capital to like, there was an example, right? Celsius, which went under recently.
Yep.
Their balance sheet was beyond repair, but Goldman was going to buy them for like repair their balance sheet with $2 billion in cash. And like, when I saw that, I'm like, they always find a way, they figure it out. They're very smart. They're very savvy. And it's capitalism at its best in many senses. I would say from the inside personally, it is strictly money, right? So money is not bad in and of itself, but if you, over time, you kind of find that sense of fulfillment, it kind of, if you're not creating something, it kind of diminishes that return on your own personal energy. So I do think that that may be the underlying reason why it does get a bad rap, like the argument that they're not creating anything, but they are funding the economy in many ways. So overall, it's the underpinning of our system, which is a very powerful system. So it's not inherently bad. It's just, I think it can be very polarizing, shall we say?
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think when you play in the world of money all day, every day, and every decision, every strategy, every conversation, hinges around money. oftentimes people in that world, I think, get desensitized to it. And so that's where you see some of the moral, fabric of people's integrity and ethics maybe start to get, eroded in that process. But as there is in every industry, in every sector, every space, good apples, there's bad apples, right? So I think it comes with a balance, but because it is woven into everything we do physically and mentally, it's easy to have a spotlight on, the bad actors in that particular space. So as you guys were navigating this arena, what was it that gave you the confidence to take the leap and go from an idea to creating a real business that we see today in Parcel?
Yeah, so I had been following blockchain and crypto for about 5 years. Kind of back to Wall Street, like when there's a new opportunity, they start to bring companies around that that you could invest in. Back 5 years ago, we were meeting with like the Ripple CFO and Consensus. Like that's what they see an opportunity, and that's like how they generate fees in banking. Yep. So I had been around it for quite some time. And we had started to see the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem, especially around decentralized finance, or DeFi, take shape in 2020. So I was following that pretty closely. And then to your point earlier around not having tickers for real estate, that was something that I wanted to see, which is basically like, I want just exposure to Miami or LA. I don't need to own the asset. I know that there are a lot of benefits to owning the asset, but I could also just have some sort of exposure and then layer on those benefits over time, like leverage, for example. And so that was really the catalyst behind starting Parcel. Was we wanted to see a way in which you could trade or invest in real estate kind of at an index level, or kind of a price feed level that would update every day, mark to market your positions every day, and allow you to trade and get exposure in a liquid fashion.
Very cool. I love that. And I think, that's something that's really become quite interesting when you think about, the problems that we've been seeing in certain sectors of the economy, certain asset classes and vehicles. Before we talk about specifically, what you guys are doing at Parcel and how you guys are doing it, I'm always curious to know a little bit more about the inception stories of like, was it over a beer? Were you guys, getting schnockered one night? Were you sitting in a garage, drinking, whatever, right? What was it that, you and your co-founders, how did you guys collectively come up with attacking this and actually saying, hey, we're going to do this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Have you told this story before?
Yeah, exactly. That's how every meeting starts. But no, it's a little more nuanced. So I worked with Kellen, our COO, prior at our prior hedge fund. And we were kind of in the background thinking about ways to leverage the blockchain for real estate in different, basically different implementations. And kind of when I had the idea a little more formulated, I came to Kellen and was like, hey, what do you think of this? And then, it kind of died down for a couple months. And then I spoke to Jason, who's our chief data officer, about how we would potentially go about this. And then I also got in touch with our head of blockchain, David Josephs, about how we would implement this on the blockchain. And then when finally it kind of all came together, it took like 3 or 4 months of just due diligence with respect to like how we would even do this, because it's such a new technology. We've had to create our own data feeds, and then we had to create our own blockchain protocols. So just getting that understanding, and eventually, basically in May, we sat down and said, we're going to do it. We said we thought we could raise a little money to get going. So we did a pre-seed in July of 21, which led to a seed. And then, a couple months ago, we did a strategic round. So, it wasn't as dramatic as like getting together one night, but it was more of a series of 4 months to speak through it. And the idea is pretty complex. So it took a lot of thinking and getting the right people on board. So I'm really grateful to or to our team, especially the early members and the co-founders.
So as you guys, took a complex idea and created a clear framework and business plan, simply put, what does Parcel do?
Parcel allows you to get exposure to the real estate markets that you want to in a liquid fashion without actually owning the underlying asset. And it does that through price feeds. So we have price feeds that track the price per square foot movement in residential areas, and puts those prices on the blockchain, and then has an exchange where you can trade them in a decentralized fashion.
And so who is your kind of average avatar right now? Is it the, traditional, I've got $10,000 in my savings account and don't know much about real estate, but I want to say I own some? Is it, private equity, family boutique office? Like who is your avatar that you guys see now using this? And also, I guess, as you build into the future, evolving into?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've done a lot of research on this. We launched to a small set of people, like a couple hundred people, a couple weeks ago, and so we're getting that understanding of who our core customer is. But we do have quite a read on the initial set and where we want to go. Initially, we view the crypto natives, so people who are comfortable with the blockchain, that understand the infrastructure, the wallets, the connections, how these exchanges work. That's our initial target. Soon thereafter, we're going to be targeting kind of like that modern investor who is more comfortable with risk. They're more comfortable taking a shot on a newer platform. They're interested in real estate, but they're not as crypto native because they haven't had a reason to understand crypto in a way that has drawn them into the ecosystem. So one of the things we're really going to be focused on is the user interface, to get them into the system and trading on the protocol, because the user interface on crypto, while they've gotten better, they're still a little bit away from kind of that next tier of adoption, because all the basically the way that the internet has evolved, we've just become more accustomed to a better user experience. So crypto is kind of like taking a step back in that department, to be very almost like bare bones and a quasi counterculture. We think that over time we need to reintroduce that native and elegant user experience to get more people on.
Yeah, I know that in terms of like mass adoption, right? Like it really has to be frictionless. It has to be comfortable, because already so many people, I mean, if you were to go back into the early 2000s and talking about the internet and how many people were, mind boggled by it. And, I can sell something on there. I could buy something on there. I could do X, Y, and Z. Right now we do it, without even thinking, in seconds. And I see that continuing to be where the blockchain and crypto space is heading. With that being said, right, regulation tying into a lot of this, which I think ultimately is going to be a good thing for adoption long term, because it's still got its bad raps in its own spaces of conversation. But as you guys have seen, would you consider yourself like the first in the space, or I'm guessing there's definitely some more competitors that are kind of playing in the space?
The implementation that we're using is unique and novel. So we are defining this market of like synthetic real estate, because it's basically collateralized. It's basically real estate without real estate, because you're creating an exchange on the prices themselves. The prices are tied and grounded to what's happening on the ground. So we are unique and first to market in this vein. We have seen like the alternative is kind of fractionalized or tokenized, which means a LLC or a group buys a house or a property and then divvies up the equity and kind of sells it to a broader group of people. We explored that. I think it's seen some traction today, but it does require a lot of capital and time So, you need the capital to secure the building. You have competitors such as just general property owners or developers or iBuyers or whoever competing with you. And then you need time to close that deal. So it's hard to bring in assets in that fashion in a scalable way. So we're starting here, not to say we won't end up there, but I think this is the most low friction way to get just real estate exposure.
So then you guys aren't buying assets and putting the, kind of asset ownership onto the blockchain and then breaking that up and selling off those pieces. What are you guys doing specifically in terms of giving people exposure to real estate? And is there any real estate tied to it?
Yeah. So not to say that we won't do that. We think that that is a good model in the future when the infrastructure is there. So you need to have a liquid market in the fashion where you're tokenizing or fractionalizing. You need a lot of buy-in and people in the system so that you have the buyers and sellers and a market to price it.
Which we don't have that at scale yet right now, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Because you need, yes, we do not. You need a lot of things to make that happen: title, mortgage, appraisal, all on chain. That's kind of like the future, and we do want to play there. But
how far are we away from that, do you think?
I don't know. I would hope 10 or 15 years would be my hope. I think there would need to be some federal or statewide legislation to transition titles onto the blockchain. Like we're adopting blockchain technology for the state of California. You have 3 years to upload your title into this format, and that's on the blockchain. That's how I would imagine it happening, and that's probably some ways away, just to get everything on there. Otherwise, you need to have like a private company go to every house and take the data. So it kind of needs to be like a mandate to make that happen. What we're doing is, so we have price feeds ingesting billions of publicly available data sources and data points to get to a price per square foot, which we view the unit of trade in a residential real estate market. And so that is what parcels are denominated in. So the way the language that we use is a parcel equals 1 square foot of X. So in Sacramento, you'd have a square foot of 1 square foot of or one square foot of real, like synthetic real estate, is 1 parcel of Sacramento. So you have a price per square foot that gets stamped onto the blockchain, the price. What happens is a market maker comes in, any market maker, anyone can do it.
Okay.
They put money into this smart contract. So let's say Sacramento's 500 a square foot. They put $500 into this smart contract that represents Sacramento. So now you have it collateralized via a market maker's dollars instead of a square foot of Sacramento. So you've created a synthetic square foot of Sacramento without touching real estate. And then you put that into a pool to allow people to trade it, trading, basically just an exchange to allow people to trade it. The market maker gets like fees on that, much like a traditional bank would. And then traders can kind of go in and out as they please for a fee.
I love that. And so you've got somebody that's got 10K sitting around and they go, I want to get a return on this investment. And I'm very interested in how Parcel can help me do that. What do you say to them?
We can help you. We can. So basically, how that would work is you'd observe where we have available markets. So currently we just started out a couple of weeks ago after several test nets with fake dollars, but now we're live with real money. We have Miami, LA, Phoenix, San Francisco, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. You can diversify your real estate portfolio just by putting that money into a wallet, going to our application, and swapping it into those cities, so that you could have a house that is spread out across the country and eventually the world, earning return or wherever you're bullish, and you could either buy or sell as you please. So there's no lockups, there's no minimums.
And what kind of returns do people generally see, or should they see theoretically? I know obviously you're not making any promises, but what is the opportunity on the Parcel platform?
Yeah, so Ideally it's what the real estate market's doing. So if there are general real estate market trends that, are very positive over time. And then there's idiosyncratic trends that are specific to cities. Obviously, I think Miami was up like 40% last year. New York was flattish. LA held in nicely. Phoenix was off the charts. So, that's what we're creating is a market much like traditional assets where there's various views of different investment opportunities, and you can express your view on the platform. And then eventually we'll look to have native shorts and native leverage. So one of the benefits, so there's varying tiers of benefits. One is just general access. So many people don't have enough for a down payment, or don't have credit, or don't want to put all their money into a house, and don't know where they want to live. And so therefore that does not mean that they shouldn't have exposure to the biggest asset class in the world. So that's one option. Then more savvy investors or technical investors, maybe they're more interested in real estate for the levered returns, or they want to get short to protect their on the ground investments. So we're looking to have an ecosystem that provides the instruments to express many views and hedge and invest in real estate at large.
What are some of the risks and downside that you guys see or make your investors and customers aware of?
Yeah, so the risks are, there's various risks, of course. Decentralized finance, DeFi as a whole is a new industry. So there's various dynamics to be aware of, specifically around security. So we take security very seriously. We've had 4 audits to date, and every line of code that goes onto the platform we have audited. I would say that to us is the biggest risk, because it's always evolving. You have new people trying to come at you through different vectors. So that's first and foremost. And then just general, like, any investment, you have to be right to make money. So this is not investment advice, but that's part of the game of investing. You need to take risk to earn reward or return. So there's nothing guaranteed on the platform, just like any other investment you would make.
The big boy, big girl rule of investing, right? Do your own due diligence and don't blame other people.
In short,
for you money.
In short.
So how big of an opportunity do you think this space is in the short term and in the long term?
I think this space is absolutely massive. I mean, real estate is the biggest asset class in the world. There's really no liquid way to invest. So I think initially we have one implementation of what we're trying to do, which is to bring people into the ecosystem, getting comfortable with the idea that the real estate does move every day. It may not be huge, but it does move, and it should be tradable just like other assets. So that's one behavior change that we're looking to ignite. And then also just generally getting the UI and UX to bring people into the blockchain ecosystem such that it doesn't really feel like blockchain. You can kind of abstract that away, and it's just real estate on the blockchain, or just real estate period is my real estate investment portfolio. And then eventually, so that's like V1, having these on-chain derivative instruments. I think the bigger picture, kind of what we alluded to earlier, is really getting the assets on chain. That does require a lot of infrastructure, but we can play in many of those arenas. So appraisal, title, then you get the mortgage, the listing, and the transaction. So that's really the stack that we're keeping an eye on and watching as new technologies get developed. But we do think we can own that stack in the long run if we or when we're successful getting people into the Parcel platform initially.
So you guys are kind of at the top of that stack, yeah?
Yeah, on the appraisal side, exactly. And then as we go down and get more specific, and there's more rules, regulations that we can abide by, again, getting the title so that you could transfer and transact quickly. And that eventually probably turns into like an NFT. So not to get into it, but just an NFT is just like a ticket that doesn't change. But when it does change hands, it would go from me to Matt. Now Matt owns this property. But if imagine you had a liquid market like that, like a listing on this house, and then you just transfer. When you transfer it, you get the title, you get the mortgage. Like there's a lot that you can do with that. Again, this is like a very entrenched business. Probably a little bit by design. And so it's going to take a little bit to remove out of the trenches and adopt the technology.
Is that liquidity? Because we've had this discussion too. Is that liquidity of a real estate asset a good or a bad thing?
In which scenario?
I mean, I think let's just talk about it from the macro perspective of the asset class as a whole, and giving people the ability to make things happen so fast in and out, right? I think, I mean, there's pros to cons and arguments on both sides of it, right? I'm just curious from your perspective, from a macro perspective, is it a good thing? It can be, I think it can be a great thing. It can also be kind of a slippery slope too, when you look at how quickly things shift in, we'll just say the stock market, when emotions are riding high, or Papa Powell comes out with a statement and all of a sudden the market starts baking things in, 10 seconds later. What is, I think there's good and bad to that. I'm just curious on your thoughts around it.
It's a really good question. I think having some sort of barometer with respect to what real estate markets are doing as a reaction to general macro conditions or interest rates is a healthy thing. I think it is kind of interesting that there's not, everyone is involved in real estate. Every single person has some interest. Like, why do we not know what the real-time prices of these cities or neighborhoods are? Mm-hmm. So I do think having that mark to market is not a bad thing. I also go back to the interesting part. It's like, companies before they go public get marked like every 3 or 4 years, right? So does the value of a company change like a house, right? So it's like before they're public, we don't know, right? And now all of a sudden tomorrow they IPO, and then all of a sudden it changes every day. So why is that so much different than real estate? It's just like the liquidity markets, generally speaking, it would just be a little more transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you guys are navigating new and, continuing to kind of take what your customers and the market is giving you, what do you see as some of the most exciting opportunities on the blockchain and, some of the challenges that are still getting worked through?
Yeah. So, initially we're really focused. I kind of keep going back to this UI UX. We want to get customers comfortable with us, comfortable with the blockchain, interacting, less friction. Then we'll continue to roll out new products. We kind of view our products in two sides. One is simple markets. So we have 6 markets now. We'll continue to test neighborhoods, cities, in the US for now. And then, we're looking to push into international cities, later this year. And then on the blockchain side, there's different ways in which we can bring these products to market. Again, you can have native shorts, leverage, perpetual futures. These are just some ideas of what could happen. Savings accounts, yield accounts, kind of dynamic rebalancing. So these are the types of actual instruments that we're exploring. Nothing, set in stone yet. As we roll out the first version. And so those are those are kind of like the 2 main roadmap vectors. Some of the exciting things on the comm that just aren't ready yet, they're called zero knowledge proofs, which will help bring this data onto the blockchain in a more secure way. We think zero knowledge oracles, to be specific, are super exciting as they develop. It's just a little early.
So what is that? I haven't heard of that before.
It's just a way to validate the data without in a more trustless way. So it's like an algorithm between two parties without actually knowing each other. Basically, it's a very kind of cryptographic way to validate data with basically by trusting no one. So it means.
And are these porting
Go ahead.
databases that they're pulling that?
They would be
information from?
pulling it from our data feed. So basically, Sacramento price to, if you don't trust Parcel, that's fine. This algorithm makes sure that it's buttoned up even more tight than we have it right now, which is super secure. So that's just ways to bring data into the world in a trustless fashion.
Interesting. Very cool. On the way you guys are structuring this company, is this, what is the big vision of how big this can get? And are you guys, looking to sunset and sell off at a certain point in time? Is that up for discussion down the road? Or usually I find that the founders always have some clear BHAG that is at least the first big milestone they're aiming for, and there's discussions around what that could look like. How's that conversation and vision look like for Parcel?
Yeah. No, so I'll be a little counter, I guess. We're really just focused like daily. We know the opportunity is huge. We continue to focus on growing our team and focusing on the mission. Our mission is to bring real estate to everyone. So what that requires is a lot of execution, kind of consistent effort, energy on a daily basis. So we have our current milestones, getting the market into and getting our first cohort of users in 3Q, which we're super excited about. And once we're in market, we can kind of calibrate exactly how we're our growth levers and how to bring on and retain customers in an efficient manner. So again, the market's massive. It's up to us to execute and remain focused because I think that because it is so large, there are opportunities to lose focus. So right now it's kind of like one foot in front of the other daily, and then eventually you kind of scale the mountain.
True or false? Parcel will be a multi-billion-dollar company.
Oh, true, for sure.
True, yeah. For sure. You might get fired if you don't answer it. You're going like, what the hell, man? What's Trevor talking about? So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about your wealth. And, obviously you've been in this arena of money conversations and wealth building. You understand the importance of it through the vehicle of business, through real estate. What does your kind of investment practices look like when it comes to your own wealth?
Yeah. So generally, so I've been on the trading side and been forced to trade a lot, and I think it's almost like a fool's errand to try to trade. I really do believe.
Tell me more.
No, just generally, I've been in seats where every day you come in and you're it's like, what should I do? And Goldman or Morgan is sending you an email being like, trying to change your mind. Like every day a bank tests your conviction because their goal for them is to generate a trade, right? That's their business. So they kind of stimulate noise for you when in the long run, kind of back to that point earlier, it's like, stuff doesn't change that much, right? You get 4 quarterly earnings reports and maybe an analyst day. So that's five times where idiosyncratic information about a company changes. So therefore, your thesis shouldn't really change that often, but every day you find yourself making trades. So, I'm more of kind of like the buy and hold. Real estate is a good investment strategy as well. But when it comes to liquid stocks, it's more of like a passive approach, just because I do think like a lot of the alpha, shall we say, is the way that it's moved with like systematic investors and just general like bigger strategies. There's less alpha there's less alpha to go around. And to get it, you almost have to take event risk, which means like you have to play earnings. Otherwise, as we've seen, it's all in one trade. It's all driven by interest rates. So everything goes up together, everything goes down together. Then like when earnings happen and there's new news, macro will follow that. And then you'll see numbers or like earnings kind of adjust to a new norm. But intermediate, most people don't have a read on macro. Like some people do, but it's really tough.
Where do you think the economy's going, with where we're at right now? in the short term? And, what do you think will transition into 2023?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I tend not to opine just because like you've been humbled so many times and
Right.
it turns into, I think they're doing what they can. Hopefully the Fed can arrange some sort of soft landing. All I can tell you is what we've seen. It's like, you've seen hikes, you've seen job cuts. And what I can't really decipher is like how much of the job cuts are just that excess hiring that people saw in 2020 and 2021 to meet demand versus like what is the true kind of base layer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see a really good company cut 10%, but they added 300%. So like,
Yeah.
where is that new norm? And
Yep.
that's what I think the economy is trying to grapple with. It's like, what is the new norm? And let's get to that base layer so we can reset and grow from there. So I really don't know when that is. I hope Powell can pull it off again. But that's TBD.
I thought it was, I laughed at that response, and I appreciate that response because it's so funny how many people are so convicted that they know what is happening and how it's going to play out.
No one
Right?
knows.
You see all
Obviously.
these hot headlines of the market's going to crash or the this or the that, and these are a lot of smart money, savvy analysts and quants and people that at the end of the day, nobody freaking knows, I think, and that's the beauty of having these kind of conversations and looking at all the different perspectives and data and paradigms that this, information is trickling out through. Cause, somewhere in there are some breadcrumbs that you can follow that, are leading in the right direction. And based on whatever someone's investment goals are or what their business model is, right, you can take those breadcrumbs and, I think have quality conversations and strategize around how do you navigate that landscape. But it feels like right now, I mean, we're still in this, I know we're in a technical recession. If you're taking the new,
the old school term.
Yeah. The new White House, definition might not meet that. But with that being said, I think, we're in this shift right now. Right. And I think especially in real estate, specifically with the market going up and down of, real estate, how does that tie in with your guys' business model? And is it ultimately, just looking at the data and there's downside risk if the market's going down, people's investment on Parcel goes down as well. If it's going up, it's going up.
Yeah. So we're actually that's the beauty of our data feeds. Like we are seeing a cooling in some of the hotter markets. Like Miami's down probably like 5 or 6% in the last week.
Phoenix, I know Phoenix is dropped.
Phoenix too. Yeah, Phoenix, LA a little bit, New York and San Francisco are kind of holding in. So again, we don't have a principal view in terms of capital. So I would say most people like it's better when markets are going up naturally. But I think volatility is kind of our friend in this sense where, there isn't really a way to short real estate. And it's a traditionally, maybe a less, it's a slower moving asset, but that may be again by design. Like there's no markets in which you can express a view. Like the Case-Shiller updates every month, but it's on like a 2-month lag, and like markets are just too fast for that, right? Like that's not a relevant bet when you're making it. So we're working on various ways to kind of change that perception. But generally speaking, I think it's a good time to come to market given heightened real estate volatility.
With tracking the data and trying to remove as much emotion as possible, what are, maybe not the specific granular pieces, because I know there's a lot that goes into it, but what are some of the places you guys like to pull your data? How do you guys like to kind of, craft your thesis? And, what are the arenas, people, books, things that you guys pull information and insight from?
Yeah, so we have a team of world-class data engineers, data scientists, just general quantitative researchers. I would say, and they come from a variety of, we come from megatech or kind of think tanks and startups. So we don't have a view on the data. We have a view on just being accurate. So we pull basically all transactions in the country, and then tax data, et cetera, to arrive at a price per square foot that is as representative as it gets in real time. And you can kind of benchmark that against any other public source. What we're focused on is generating data that scales. So we're using the most forward-leaning technology stacks to enable this, to enable ingestion, calculation, and then eventually data science and more algorithms to improve our data practices. So that's really what we're focused on is accuracy, quality, security. But we do, and that obviously comes from the team that is behind that and making that better every day or kind of grow every day, which they continue to do. And it's pretty astounding what they've done in a short period of time.
That's amazing, man. Well, I can't wait to see what you guys continue to do. I mean, and the real currency here, the real gold is the data, right? I mean, obviously you guys got a platform and you guys got so many cool things that you're offering the customer, but on the back end of that, you guys are accumulating a significant amount of value in the data, which is going to be exciting to see on a macro scale how that's leveraged going forward, and excited to keep up with Parcel, man. I know a lot of people are going to be interested in what you guys got going on, and what would you say in the short term is what you're most excited about here for Parcel?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a great talk. Initially, it's really rolling out to the users. We're coming out. We're in an alpha stage right now, which is only a couple hundred people. The results have been fantastic thus far. We're going to have a more a public beta in the next month or so, and then we'll continue to roll out that UI that I keep talking about, getting people information, understanding the cities that are available to trade. And then, we continue to actually to the data. Parcel Labs is how we branded the data arm, and we'll have products coming out from that first, likely an API, and then more of an interface strictly for the data. So I'm excited for it all. I think there are awesome opportunities. The market's massive. The team that we have is amazing, and it's really just a focus on execution and the strategic vision.
Well, I want to be a part of that next rollout. I am definitely excited and intrigued for what Parcel has going on. And for those that want to learn more about you, Trevor, about Parcel, the company as a whole, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, so we're most active on Twitter. So follow us at Parcel, Parcl, for Parcel, the protocol, at Parcel Labs, Parcl, Labs. For the data, we have updates on prices every, rolling, kind of automated. And then parcel.co, Parcl.co. And then I'm Trevor J. Bacon. That's my Twitter handle, Trevor J. Bacon. So those are the main outlets.
Trevor, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. 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 Take care, everyone.